Guys, welcome back to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to talk about the best Stax cards in Digimon. Now, I know Stax is not a term that comes up in Digimon often. I play a lot of Magic, and that's something we talk about quite a bit. So I actually wanted to start this video by defining Stax and talking about kind of what it is and what we're qualifying as Stax here. If you've played Magic, you probably know what I'm talking about, but some of us Digimon-only players might not know. So, Stax refers to a deck archetype that focuses on resource denial to disrupt the opponent's ability to play the game. These decks aim to restrict the opponent's gameplay options by punishing specific actions, stealing memory, or completely denying effects. Instead of relying on direct removal, Stax pieces create lasting restrictions that limit what the opponent can do, gradually gaining advantage through control rather than aggression. I do want to be very specific here that Stax is not necessarily synonymous with control. Control is kind of a wider umbrella term that you could place Stax underneath, but Stax itself is not just control. So in that nature, we're going to define a couple of rules. The following things are not going to be considered Stax effects because I believe they are control pieces or removal pieces, not necessarily Stax. So single target and wideboard removal effects, things that just say delete Digimon, that's not necessarily Stax. That is just removal and control. Protection effects that prevent removal, like Magna X, while a lot of us share the sentiment that Magna X is a big body that sits on the board, and if you can't deal with it, you lose, it's not actually restricting your gameplay actions other than making itself immune to certain effects, so I'm not going to qualify that kind of thing as Stax. If a Stax piece has removal included in its effect, it's going to be considered towards the overall efficacy of the card, so we're rating cards, this is my top 10, 1 through 10, if the card comes with other effects printed on it, that is going to be weighed in its placement on this list, not just the solely the Stax effect on the card. So, also, as a disclaimer, this is not a definitive top 10 list. This is just my personal opinion. It's totally okay to disagree, and I probably forgot about some cards. My bad. I certainly don't know every single card in this game off the top of my head, but this is certainly some of the more notable cards that we're going to go over today. And before we get into that list, I'm going to ask you guys, does Digimon need more Stax pieces? Now that you know what Stax is, do you think that more Stax pieces would actually help to slow down the hyper-aggressive meta, or would just make the game insufferable with some of the more protection and defensive-oriented decks getting more tools to limit what players can do? So go ahead and tell me what you think in the comments below, and let's get into this. So, I'm going to start with honorable mentions here, 4 cards that I like. I don't think they belong in the top 10, but I definitely think they fit the category of what Stax is. So we have Congo. It's going to stop your opponent from attacking with Digimon play cost 7 or less and stop you from adding cards of security by effects. That's just general Stax. You can't do things, and it's limiting 2 different facets. I just don't think it does enough to really qualify for this list. Neo Devimon, when an opponent plays a tamer, you gain 3 memory on your opponent's turn. The Inherit does the same thing, kind of. When an opponent's tamer is suspended, you gain a memory. This is just classic Stax. Your opponent does something, they pay more for it. So they play a tamer, you gain 3 memory. So you're making that tamer cost 3 more memory. Excellent Stax effect. Unfortunately, the card is just bad. I can totally see in a world where sideboards exist or tamers are more prevalent that this could be a really lethal level 5 just plop on board. But as it is, doesn't matter that much. Melgar X, the Stax effect on this card is just that all of your opponent's Digimon gain when attacking lose 4 memory. It's a fantastic effect. Losing 4 memory is terrible and will very much not let the opponent attack with more than 1 Digimon, but this is kind of a pain to get into. It's a pain to enable the effect, and your deck has to be built so specifically to kind of enable this card that it's not that great. We also have Shivamon. When all your Digimon are suspended, your opponent can't use options. Another classic Stax thing. You can't use options. It sees some play or saw some play with Tyrant at one point or another, but it's not going on this list. So, I do also want to say the rookie floodgates, I'm going to qualify them all as Stax. They're not going to go in the top 10, but here they are. It's all the rookie floodgates. It just says your opponent can't. That is a Stax effect, but it's not very interesting and it's not very unique, so I'm not going to put it on the list. Cool. So, now we can start with number 10, Marine Angemon from EX8. At security, at the end of battle, give 2 of your opponent's Digimon sec -1 for the turn, then add this card to the hand. All turns while you have 1 or memory, none of your opponent's Digimon can activate when Digivolving effects. So that is our Stax effect there. It turns off blast Digivolve effects, basically, because your opponent can't activate Digivolving effects on your turn. The additional effects activating insecurity is actually really nice on this card. The card has the vaccine trait, so it's probably got some potential as a generic yellow tool, especially for yellow vaccine. Unfortunately, using the whole stack just to turn off Blast Ace effects is not worth it. This is too small to safely check security. It doesn't do anything to actively disrupt the opponent during their turn. It's really just a defensive tool that serves to lock out a comeback mechanic. Obviously, it has its use in Deep Savers, but in every other application, it's not especially useful. I do like it as number 10, though, because it is kind of our only card that we have so far that really spits in the face of Blast Aces, and I think that it's interesting, and the effect very much fits the niche of Stax. Number 9 here, I have Crimson Blaze. You reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1 for each Digimon the opponent has in play. Main, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with 6k DP or less, and your opponent can't play Digimon by effects until the end of their next turn. So the Stax effect here is stopping opponents from playing Digimon by effects until the end of their turn. The removal effect and cost reduction are a really great value combo against wide boards, and it's really not a fun card to hit in security, especially because plenty of decks float bodies. It can drastically change your game plan. Let's say you're playing Megidramon and you actually swing into this, and now you can't float back that Guilmon. That's going to throw a wrench in your plans. So the card can be low impact against single stack decks where you don't see deletion targets, even if the Stax effect is good. If your opponent's just playing one stack, you're plopping down a Crimson Blaze for 5 just to stop your opponent from playing Digimon by effects. That feels bad. Use the cost reduction being conditional means that sometimes this is just a break in your hand, like we said. And TLDR, this is just a highly meta-dependent card. In metas where people are playing lots of rookie rush type strategies, it's going to be great. It's going to feel awesome against decks that go wide and float bodies. Again, feels awesome and nice, but against those single stack explosive decks, this just doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose. Number 8, Mimi Tachigawa. I love this card. All turns when a player uses an option, you may suspend this tamer to gain a memory. Its low play cost makes it a great choking tool. On your turn, this card generates value by discounting trainings, memory boosts, and netting you memory in X antibody decks. But on your opponent's turn, this card makes all their option cards cost 1 more for each Mimi you have in play. That's why we're qualifying it as Stax. Your opponent does something, costs more memory. In some cases, this can be completely shut off by X antibody combos and search engines. Unfortunately, though, some decks are just self-sufficient without having to play option setup. Some decks are totally fine without running their trainings and their memory boosts and all that. So playing Mimis is already a tempo loss. You just kind of better hope that they're in security and a bunch of these rack up by your opponent swinging through security, because otherwise you're sacrificing so much tempo to get these on the board, and then your opponent can just choose not to play trainings or boosts, and you kind of don't get anything out of the card. So that's why Mimi's at number 8. Number 7 here, we have the combination of Volcanic Dramon and Metallic Dramon. I know it's 2 cards, I promise, but Stax effects stop playing or moving 6k or lower Digimon and Digivolving off of level 4 or lower Digimon. The Volcanic Dramon's complementary effects here are kind of lackluster in my opinion. Popping the smallest body on the board does not synergize with the Evo effect. I feel like you'd get a little bit more out of it if you were able to delete the highest level or highest DP Digimon, and then your opponent can't play or move Digimon, but that it is what it is. Metallic Dramon complementary effect is fantastic, forcing the biggest threat to de-Digivolve by 4. So it's going to be level 4 or lower, and that's going to enable Metallic Dramon's own stack effect of level 4 and lowers not being able to Digivolve. So Metallic Dramon, much better than Volcanic Dramon. The 5-cost Evo feels pretty bad here, and they need each other to float into to really get the full potential of their effects. So these cards really kind of have to be played together. You can probably play Metallic Dramon on its own, but you're going to invest 5 memory in your full stack to basically de-Digivolve something and stop your opponent from Digivolving. It seems like a little bit of a wash, but certainly I think these cards have to be paired together. Number 6 here, Imperial Dramon Fighter Mode has Raid Piercing. When Digivolving, your opponent can't play Digimon or Tamers by effects until the end of their turn. If Dragon Mode is in this, Digimon's Digivolution cards trash your opponent's top security, and then all turns once per turn when your opponent's security stack is removed from, delete one of their Digimon with as much or less DP as this Digimon. So our Stax effect here prevents Digimon and Tamers from being played by effects until the end of the opponent's next turn. This is especially relevant in today's meta, certainly stopping your opponent from gaining some momentum off losing their bodies. The Raid and Piercing are a really powerful keyword combo. The free deletion when you remove security cards and free trash effect if running Dragon Mode is also fantastic. The main downside here is that while extremely strong, the Stax effect only lasts for 1 turn, and you're really contingent on having Dragon Mode in your sources for the full power of this card. So running it as a toolbox card can feel lackluster, especially if you're just kind of paying 5 memory to stop your opponent from floating effects for a turn. It is very strong. I'm not saying this is not a strong card. I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. It's very good. It's very good in its deck, but if we're evaluating the card on its own and without Dragon Mode underneath it, it is a little bit limited in what it does. Number 5 on the list, I've got Quartzmon. When Digivolving, suspend all other Digimon and Tamers. Then for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers, gain a memory. All turns other than this Digimon, all Digimon and Tamers don't unsuspend, and then when attacking, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Then trash the top card of your opponent's security stack for every 5 suspended Digimon and or Tamers. So, our primary Stax effect here prevents all other cards from unsuspending. It's got a complementary effect that gives you memory and threatens to trash security on attack. It also has the ability to suspend down more cards on attack. I think that part is really key here. So while you get everything suspended down, if the opponent plays more things, you still have the ability to get those bodies suspended down and then start trashing things and doing some damage. While the complementary effects are reliant on a wider board to give lots of benefit, the actual stacks effect here is really powerful and consistent. You are stopping your opponent from suspending, and that does not change whether there are lots of cards on the board or not. That only impacts your ability to trash security and gain memory back off of digivolving into this. The main downside of this card is that it's a level 7, which means you need an existing stack and the right colors to play it. Sometimes this just passes at too much memory. Those are really the main downsides to this card. This is like a 5-cost Evo or even a 4-cost Evo. As a level 7, it would be absolutely cracked. Obviously, it would be cracked. We know this. But it would need a little bit more, I think, to be higher on this list, especially compared to some of the other stacks pieces that we have. Number 4 here, Ice Wall. This card does everything right. The Stax effect taxes every attack by 2 memory during the opponent's next turn. This is a blanket effect, so it includes Digimon promoted from raising or played by effect during their next turn. The security effect also gives 2 memory, so you still tax the opponent even without playing the card. If it winds up in security, they lose 2 memory. If you play it and they swing, they lose 2 memory. So it's a lose-lose for the opponent. The 1-cost option also means it's a memory choking tool on top of being a stacks piece. Being able to choke the opponent at 1 is huge, especially being able to punish people who don't play memory tamers. Just feels really, really nice. The only downside to this card is that it was so strong it had to be restricted to 1, which technically makes it inconsistent as a stacks tool since you can only play 1 copy. You don't have control over if this winds up in your hand or if it's going to wind up in security, and that makes it feel especially bad if you bottom deck it with like a memory boost or something or some search effect outside of a training. So the inconsistency of the card that stems from it being a 1-of is the only downside for this. Number 3 here, yes, the funny man is here again. Shine Greymon Ruin Mode. He gives the blanket minus 5k. We all know this, and then he deletes a Digimon, recovers, and hatches an egg. He only counts as stacks because the minus 5k effect is a blanket through the opponent's next turn and is technically minus 10k on a high roll. It is not explicitly the deletion effect that we're considering here as a stacks tool. It is the fact that your whole board effectively is in a state where you cannot play Digimon with 5k or less DP or 10k or less DP, whatever you want to quantify it as. The stacks effect is considerably stronger than others because it doubles as a removal effect. The opponent can't play Digimon with DP less than 5k, and while that number is theoretically worse than Volcanic Dramon, the additional effects that Shine Greymon Ruin Mode have are way better than what Volcanic Dramon is packing. It's complemented by an end of attack deletion effect to actually delete a body that would dodge the DP reduction threshold. It offers recovery and an egg for tempo. But you know, a downside to this card is that it's expensive and it doesn't always get the full value. You're paying 5 Evo into this. You might not always be able to keep turn when you go into Shine Greymon Ruin Mode to get the minus 10k, the deletion, the egg, the recovery, all that. You can die before the end of attack and you don't get all of that end of attack goodness. So there are tangible downsides to the card that prevent me from putting it higher than number 3 on the list. Number 2, though, Hexablaumon from EX7, Security Attack +1, and Iceclad. When Digivolving, trash any 4 sources under one of your opponent's Digimon. And then, if your opponent has no Digimon with Digimon Digivolution cards, return one of their tamers to the bottom of the deck. Opponents turn none of your opponent's Digimon with as many or fewer sources as this Digimon can suspend. So this is one of our more modern examples of a Stax piece. The Stax effect stops opponents from suspending Digimon with less than or as many sources as Hexablau. Source Strip guarantees at least one body won't be able to suspend and threatens the tamer removal. Paired with Security Attack +1, this card puts the opponent on a harsh clock. You're swinging 2 checks each turn at least, and the opponent can't really do anything about it. The Iceclad means even if the opponent has a blocker, Hexablaumon is likely to win because you are source stripping. You can strip the sources under the blocker specifically, and then if they block, they're going to lose that body because you will win due to Iceclad's effect. It's extremely effective in an aggressive meta, slowing down people attacking until they remove the Hexablau. The downside here, 4-cost Evo, while it seems minuscule because of scrambles, this is introducing reliance on an extra piece to make this consistently cheap. And it has no protection from removal, so the opponent can pop it and swing anyways. If they have an answer to Hexablau, they have an answer to Hexablau. But if they don't, then this card really, really punishes them with its Stax effect. Number 1 on this list is going to be Venusmon. When Digivolving, all of your opponent's Digimon gain Security Attack -1 until the end of your opponent's turn, and opponent's turn, all of your opponent's Digimon with Security Attack can't attack this Digimon and can't activate when attacking and when Digivolving effects. So, this is Stax Incarnate to me. There is no actual removal going on here. There is just a lot of limiting and preventing of game actions, which is what Stax is all about. It stops attacks with Security -1 as a blanket effect and prevents itself from being attacked. It stops when Digivolving and when attacking effects during the opponent's turn, but it is still vulnerable to aces, importantly, because it only turns off those effects on the opponent's turn. So if you attack and the opponent hits that blast Digivolve effect, it is your turn. So technically they can still use their when Digivolving effect and they can punish the Venusmon here. The effect is incredibly effective for tempo, as the opponents don't usually want to miss out on Evo effects and leave their stack vulnerable. So if the opponent plops a Venusmon, it does not really make sense to promote your stack and just keep digivolving up the line, unless you have something like a card that has a when attacking effect, because once the Venusmon effect fades, you can just use your when attacking to basically get your value anyways. But it does force the opponent to slow down, and it can usually be converted into an impactful level 7, like Shine Greymon Ruin Mode, Bolt Boutomon. The only kind of main downside here is just like we talked about with Hexablaumon, this is a 4-cost Evo, which means you probably need a yellow scramble to get into this cheaply. But you are still actually a vaccine, so you have some yellow vaccine shenanigans backing you on the Venusmon. I just think that this is our prime example of what a Stax piece is, and what a powerful Stax piece looks like. So, with that being said, with our little adventure into Staxville here, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Again, do you think we need more Stax pieces? Should we keep them out of the game? Do we hate Stax personally? I don't like Stax. I've never liked playing against it. Doesn't feel great to play it, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Thank you to our channel members for supporting this channel. It's people like Langlong, Big Z11, Coffee Deus, and DigiDane who make videos like this possible.